let's stay with this particular story. I mean, eyewitness videos taken today showing flares in the night sky above what was said to be Tel Aviv amid Iran's mass drone and missile attack on Israel territory overnight. Now, Iran launching the attack, of course, over what we've just told you about the April 1st attack that killed top Revolutionary Guards commanders, and follows months of clashes between Iran and Israel as well. So let's speak now to senior research fellow Thembisa Fakude and SABC News International editor Sophie Mokoena, who joins us live now for this conversation. Sophie, I see that there is that meeting, that UN Security Council meeting that is expected. What else do we know?
We know that the meeting will start at 10 p.m. South African time. We expect the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, to speak at that meeting. And we also expect Iran and Israel to make statements, and also other countries will also wade in. But the reality is I can't see any agreement in terms of what needs to be done. I suspect that many will call for cessation of hostilities and restraint, but nothing more.
And Thembisa, thank you so much for your time as well. I mean, the attack was, coming, especially when you look at the events of April 1st and what has been bubbling under. But let's talk about the implications from this, given the reaction that we've also seen following this latest attack.
Well, Thembisa, of course, one hopes that the Israelis do not retaliate, because if they do retaliate, this might just create more problems and increase the tensions in the region. But the United States has been very clear in terms of not supporting Israel should it decide to retaliate what has happened yesterday. We must also remember that the reason why Iran did what it did yesterday is because of the unprovoked attack by Israel at the embassy, the consulate side of the embassy in Damascus, which killed 7 people. And Iran has insisted that it's got the right to defend itself because it regarded the territory as part of its own, notwithstanding that it's in Damascus. So we have to hope that nothing happens or Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't retaliate, because if it does retaliate, Iran has vowed.
All right, Thembisa, we seem to be losing you quite a bit somewhat. I'm going to stay with you, Sophie, as we try then to resolve that particular line. When you look at, what has happened, of course, there's a lot of pressure now. There's a lot of reaction to what has happened. But we think about the International Relations Minister, Dr. Naledi Pandor, who is going to be hosting his counterpart this week as well. So is that likely to dominate the talk somewhat?
Clearly, you know that Egypt is trying to assist to find a solution to the conflict and the standoff in the Middle East, looking at what's happening in Gaza. Also, Egypt is a member of the Arab League and a friend to the Middle East countries, including Israel. And therefore, they will weigh in on this matter, because this is actually affecting the peace and security in the region, because it was Israel in Gaza. Now you see other countries being involved. For example, Jordan, that assisted Israel and America to intercept those drones and missiles, now under pressure from the Arab countries, ordinary people saying that they are a sellout. So it's actually causing tension within the Arab League and also the Middle East. And you know that the country Egypt has been playing a very prominent role in brokering a ceasefire between Hamas and also Israel. As we speak, the talks are continuing, and Qatar included. But with this latest development, now the focus is now shifting to the 2 countries that are fighting, with Israel threatening that it is going to retaliate, Iran saying if they do retaliate, they are going to come with a much heavier force that will lead to casualties in Israel. And therefore, this is a mess. And we saw President Biden saying to Israel that they shouldn't retaliate and that they will not be part of the attack that will be directed at Iran. And Egypt is a very important country, and it has got information from both sides. And therefore, I think the Foreign Affairs Minister of Egypt will definitely inform Minister Naledi Pandor in terms of the latest development in the Middle East.
Thembisa, let's pick up from the point of retaliation, because that's where we also lost you a bit. I mean, how on edge would you say the region is right now?
The region is on edge, of course, because if Israel does retaliate, you're likely to have problems, as Iran is about to do so. But the United States, as Sophie correctly states, is not interested in escalation, nor is it going to assist Israel if Israel does decide to escalate this. But again, this is a sideshow, and it plays very well for Benjamin Netanyahu, who wants to take away attention from his crimes that are currently taking place in Gaza and direct that attention into Iran. But Iran, of course, doesn't seem to be catching the bait. Is staying away from the trapping of diversion. In other words, taking away that attention from what's happening in Gaza into Iran. So we'll have to wait and see. But already we saw yesterday what the war could do. One, the disturbance of air freight in the region, but also importantly, it could just disturb the exportation and supply of oil and gas if this war does go ahead, or the escalation is effective as Benjamin Netanyahu intends to do.
So does it look like then, Thembisa, for you, because given what has happened and what Iran has been saying over time, that we are living in a much more dangerous era than we ever thought before?
Yes, it looks likely. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu will do whatever it takes for him to stay out of trouble, because he knows when the dust settles in Gaza, he's likely to face legal action from Israelis. You saw, for example, over the past couple of months, at least sustained protests from the Israelis against Benjamin Netanyahu, calling for him to resign.
All right, that line letting us down there. But
whatever taking the can down the road in terms of getting out of jail, will do whatever it takes.
All right, that line there to Thembisa not very clear. But as we round up our conversation then, Sophie, I mean, listening to what Thembisa has to say and what the United States had to say as well, our own President, Cyril Ramaphosa, has also said something about this particular development. What has he said?
Yes, the President reminded the world that he did warn international community that if the matter of the Middle East is not resolved, it will escalate to neighboring countries. And this is exactly what is happening. And now the region has to deal with this tension. We know that today children didn't go to school in Israel. And we know that neighboring countries are also monitoring the situation. We saw yesterday, as I pointed out, Jordan assisting Israel and America to intercept those drones and missiles. On the other hand, when you look at what was happening in Iraq, Iraq did allow those missiles to pass through their territory. And therefore, you can see that many countries in the Middle East are taking a different stand and posture. And that is escalating tension in the region. And this is a very critical region, as Thembisa has pointed out there. You know that it is a region that is endowed with oil, and therefore the oil supply around the world will be affected. Not only that, including the issue of supplies around the world. You know that you can't use that sea now to transport goods from Europe because of the current standoff that we are experiencing in relation to the insurgents in Yemen who are attacking those vessels that are carrying goods. And therefore, the instability in the Middle East will definitely affect the globe. And secondly, remember, you have a situation where the United Nations Security Council is paralyzed because the P5 members often take different positions depending who is involved. We know that America will support Ukraine with other allied members in relation to NATO and in Europe. When you look at the Middle East, a similar situation is playing itself. On the other hand, we have Russia and China who are supporting Russia in relation to the situation in Ukraine. In the Middle East, definitely they are supporting Iran, much as at this moment, all member countries of BRICS have called for restraint, and therefore it is still that time where they are still calling for resolution of this conflict or tension peacefully. But it does paralyze the whole world, because even tonight, you must watch at 10 p.m., we will carry that UN Security Council meeting live. You'll see countries are going to take different positions. There will be those countries that are going to put a blame squarely on Iran. You will have those countries who are going to put a blame squarely on Israel, including America, because the reality is America is a powerful force. If America wants the war in Ukraine to end now, that war can end now. If America wants the conflict in Gaza to stop now, that conflict can stop now. Simply put, stop supplying arms when there is confrontation.
Well, certainly see what then comes out of the UN Security Council, as you say, that that meeting taking place at 10 p.m. our local time. So we will bring it to you live here on SABC News. That was Senior Research Fellow Thembisa Fakude and SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena, who have been giving us an update on this particular situation.